What's up? My name is Kai. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be talking a lot about solo traveling and why you should solo travel. I have solo traveled Nepal and China the past 6 months at the age of 22, and it was one of the most insightful, enlightening, and profound experiences of my life. And I would highly recommend you to solo travel yourself. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be just a weekend. Anything that has to do with adventure and being by yourself is what I consider solo travel. It doesn't necessarily have to be in another country or for a specific amount of time or in a different environment. What it really does mean is that you're going on an adventure to explore something new, a new experience, a new place, new people, anything like that. And hopefully by the end of this video, you have more motivation to go on your own solo travels and to explore the world and to do cool things that you like. So yeah, let's get into it. Here's a little quick background on who I am. I'm currently 23 years old. My name is Kai. I graduated from UPenn Wharton studying finance and computer science back in 2025. So I graduated last May, so almost a year ago. And typically, a lot of people that go through the Wharton School usually go into consulting, investment banking, biz ops, or a corporate job, and startups as well. But I thought that wouldn't it be cool to solo travel? Let's say take a gap year, do something crazy, figure it out from there. And it was a pretty big decision on my part because you have this opportunity cost of a stable job, a corporate job, a well-paying job, and I'm out here in Nepal figuring things out, and I'm so glad that I did this decision, actually. So that's a little bit on who I am, and I think I'm going to structure this video describing the stories of people that have done this before and what you can take from their stories, my actual solo travel experience, my philosophy going to there, my reasons for going there, as well as the tangible benefits that have occurred, the people that I've met, the experiences that I've accrued, what I'm going to take away from this solo travel experience and apply in my future. I'll also talk about that. In addition, I'll go into the philosophy of why being scared is good and why you should pursue adventure, as well as the differences between solo travel and regular travel, and how this all came to be. So it's quite a lot of stuff that I'll cover in today's video, but stick with me. It will be a very, very good, insightful, informative video. So yes, let's get into it. I booked my solo travel ticket, I think in December 2024 or January 2025, and it was for September 2025, where I would arrive in Nepal, spend an undefined amount of time, and just figure things out. I really wanted to pursue adventure photography. I wanted to go outdoors. I wanted to explore myself. I wanted to explore Buddhism, Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, just anything that was different and atypical from what my Wharton colleagues were doing. And part of the inspiration that led me to take this big leap of faith was reading the stories of various entrepreneurs in the past. And I love to read. I love to read memoirs. I love to read different blogs on Substack, on Reddit, the whole bunch. And I want to share you some examples of various people that have done solo travel in the past. One example is Phil Knight, who is the founder of Nike. I think at the age of 24 or 26, he went to Asia, went to Japan, went to Nepal, and he wrote in his book, Shoe Dog, that when he was in Kathmandu, he noticed the shoes on everyone, on all the travelers, on all the local people, and that helped him spur on the idea of Nike or just selling shoes in general, right? In addition, he was able to meet with various business people in Japan, build great business connections, and that's what got him selling the first Tiger shoe in America. So not only was there a lot of tangible benefit where he was able to sell products and make different relationships, it also helped him spur his creativity, and I think it helped him think about what he valued in life and how travel and adventure translates into his business decisions later on in life. Another example is Steve Jobs. If you don't know, he's the founder of Apple. And at the age of 19, he solo traveled to India for 9 months, I believe. He did a lot of meditation. He was basically a hippie, walking around barefoot. And from that, he took away a lot of, I think, Zen Buddhism, living by yourself, living very frugally, a lot of Eastern philosophy, a lot of hippie-esque thoughts and ideas. And he brought that whole philosophy back to what he was doing in the States. And one particular example is when he started Apple, he had this whole design philosophy of like simplicity is better and how you should always strive and always go for the most simple engineering like thing. He didn't really care if he made a lot of profit or a lot of revenue from his products. He just cared for making the best product. And I think he took a lot of that from Zen Buddhism on how, things have to be simple, balanced, all these different things, right? In addition, another entrepreneur I've looked up to is Yvon Chouinard. He is the founder of Chouinard Climbing Equipment, which became Black Diamond as well as Patagonia. So it's a very famous outdoor apparel brand that is worldwide. And Yvon Chouinard, yes, of course he's solo traveled. He solo traveled to Patagonia. He did all these crazy different things. But one particular example is when he was in the Korean War. I think he was drafted there. He didn't really want to serve in the war. But he would oftentimes sneak out of his army barracks and go climb mountains and come back in the morning. No one knew what he did, but he just did it out of the fun of it, right? And you also see the stories of many, many other outdoor apparel company founders. They've also done crazy things like this where they go to a different place in the world, travel, and they get great ideas on what they should do. Another example is Jim Simons. Jim Simons is the founder of Renaissance Technologies. He is super cool. And I think after his, was it undergrad or master's graduation? I'm not sure exactly, but he and his friend did a motorcycle trip from Boston to Colombia. And that to me just seems really cool. Like this dude who ends up being one of the best stat arb hedge fund founders and high frequency trading founders, whatever, also loved to solo travel at one point in his life. And you see this with other people as well, like James Gennard. He's the guy who started Oakley. And what did he do? I don't know where he was, maybe in Australia or something like that, but he did a crazy motorcycle trip. And that's where he started selling his Oakley sunglasses and selling motorcycle parts, all that different stuff. Richard Branson, the guy who started Virgin Galactic, Virgin Airways, Virgin Everything, was also a big adventurer, loved to do hot air balloons, sailed across the world. And for me, just hearing all these different stories and reading all their different memoirs gave me some idea as to like, although they all did different industries and different types of products, they all share similar personality traits, Like these guys were all visionaries. They did something completely brand new, completely different. And you learn that in every single entrepreneur and every single great founder, they all had solo traveling stories. And that to me is like very profound. Why did every single entrepreneur solo travel? That is like absolutely insane, right? And here's me, age 22, reading all this, and I'm just thinking, damn, like, these guys solo traveled in their early 20s and they built great companies. Did they ever think of these great companies when they were young? Maybe not. But I'm sure that through solo traveling, did they come up with these great ideas or come up with the courage and the ambition to pursue great ideas that might not work in the first place, right? So that inspired me to smash the one-way ticket to Nepal, say fuck it, I don't know anything about Nepal. All I know in Nepal is that there are big ass mountains. There's Mount Everest there. the people there sort of look like me. Nepali people look, I'd say, a mix between Indian, Chinese, and Nepali, right? I was just saying, like, hey, like, I should just go to this place and, I don't know, like, experience what all these guys experience in their early 20s, which is solo travel, adventure, figuring things out along the way, and just saying, fuck it, like, fuck it, we ball, you know? Why not? Why not do this? And I was super excited going on this trip. I didn't know what to do. So what I did to prepare was I messaged about 100 trekking companies in Nepal, 100 to 500 trekking companies. I just said, hey, my name is Kai, namaste. I'm going to Nepal sometime soon. I was wondering if you have any advice for me, any travel advice, any hotel advice. What treks should I do? I also messaged pretty much everyone that had the last name Sherpa on Instagram. So I would go into someone, a Nepali guy, go into who he's following, and just hit up every single guy named Sherpa. And that's all I did. I built this small little network from my home in Philadelphia saying, hey, I want to go to Nepal. What is there in Nepal? Can you tell me about this or this or this? And luckily, one company reached out back to me. The company's called Nepal Vision Treks and Expeditions. And their social media manager, Kartavia, was saying, hey, like, you're a pretty cool guy. I would love to talk to you, and we can figure something out when you arrive in Nepal. And I said, hey, like, I want to do adventure photography. I'll be a porter. I'll do anything. I just want to work for your company and do something really dope. And Kartavia, very fortunately, very generously, he said, yeah, like, Kai, you can come, but don't be a porter. You can be our photographer, but no pressure, man. Just have fun. We would love to host you in Nepal. We got you with a hotel. We got you with, you know, a Jeep that picks you up from the airport. Like, we got you with everything. And I was very happy, but I was very skeptical because I don't know these people. I never spoken to them over the phone before. This was just all through text messaging on Instagram. And in the summer leading up to my departure, my September departure, I would make these videos on Instagram saying, hey, I'm going to Nepal. I'm training for Nepal. It's 100 days till Nepal. It's 99 days till Nepal. It's 98 days till Nepal. And here's me working out and training for it. Here's me running. Here's me doing a weighted run. I am actively training for this. And somehow, although those videos were very poorly edited, pretty bad quality, I'd say, they just went straight to the Nepali algorithm. And somehow, the best climber in Nepal saw my video. The best sport climber in Nepal. His name is Tintin Rai. And he's about 1 year younger than me. He reached out to me saying, hey, Kai, like, I don't know who you are, but you seem pretty cool. My name is Tintin. I am a national climber from Nepal. I'm working on many different projects, and you seem really cool. Like, I think we share a lot of similar interests, and I would love to meet you. Would love to be friends with you and work something out when you arrive in Nepal. And I said, bet, like, let's do that. And through some Instagram DMs back and forth, I also got to know Power. Power Shrestha is 2 years younger than me, or actually 3 years younger than me, depending on, like, what day of the year it is. But he's this guy who's really into photography, cinematography, doing photography gigs. And I connected with him on Instagram, and we spoke about MacBooks, different technology, Lightroom, editing, video editing, all this different type of stuff. And when I arrived in Nepal, I knew no one, but I got to meet the Nepal Vision team, Tintin and Power. And from there on out, I was able to go on crazy adventures, like climbing mountains. I climbed Mara Peak. I went into a remote village in the Annapurna region, and I filmed a mad honey hunting documentary, which I have to edit and I have to go through and I have to deliver to you guys. But it was just crazy. I was able to do parts of the Annapurna Circuit Trail. I was able to go camping. I was able to meet so many different Nepali people, make so many different friends, lifelong, lasting friendships. And this was all because I chose to book that one ticket to Nepal. And none of this would have been possible if I stuck to the traditional career path. It was crazy what I was doing. Every day, I was continually surprised Okay, the cat is meowing right now. I'll continue with my story in like 10 seconds. Hold on, let me open the door. Psst, 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 psst. Yeah, there's a cat here. Just let the cat in. Okay, where was I? Sorry about that. So yeah, I just had an amazing, amazing adventure in Nepal. And I'll have to say that Nepali people are extremely kind. I feel like any other country, it might have been difficult. It might have been hard to solo travel or to meet different people. But it was an insane experience. Okay, now that I've described to you what my time in Nepal was like, I also want to share the context for solo traveling, like the emotions that you go through, right? I think in every single case of solo travel, it is scary. It is so scary to just arrive in a country, not know anyone, not know the language, jet lagged. You're scared of scammers. You're scared of people approaching you and trying to swindle you or to rob you or to harvest your organs. Like, there's so many different concerns that you can have. And I will say that the safety concerns are more or less, I won't say that they're real, but like they have some basis in reality. Like, tourists do get hard organ harvested, and that's really bad. But I would say for the vast majority of travel, it's generally safe. There are always scammers in every country, so do keep that in mind. But when you think about it, being scared is the same exact feeling as being excited. And I've always been drawn to this one quote by Alex Honnold, who free soloed El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. He said that, like, how your brain operates, like the neuroscience of it, when you're scared versus you're being excited, it's the exact same neural pathways that are activated. So, like, whenever I call myself being scared, I would just say, wait, I'm also equally excited as I am scared. So when I arrived in Nepal, I was scared, but I was also excited. That's a really cool thing to keep in the back of your head, saying, I'm still alive right now. I have all my belongings. Yes, I can be a bit scared, but nothing bad is going on. In fact, I'm actually excited. So that's a really cool thing to always think about, right? And I think that as you're solo traveling, you get a lot and lot more comfortable in your own skin, right? You're thinking about, okay, you're just going it day by day. Okay, I need to figure out my food. I need to figure out talking to the waitress, talking to the restaurant owner, talking to transportation, talking to the bus driver, talking to all these different people. And at first it's really daunting, but as you start becoming more and more like self-sufficient in managing and navigating in a foreign country, in a foreign environment, and talking to people, I think that gives you a lot of confidence in whatever you do later down in life, right? It's very similar to networking. Like, when you network with the first few 5 investment bankers, it's probably hard to have that conversation. But as you network with about 20 people, you start to understand the industry. So you start to understand what people like to talk about, how to talk, everything about that. And I think when you have spoken to many different people from many different backgrounds, like economic backgrounds in America, different jobs, different people, as well as going solo traveling in Nepal and talking to those types of people, that will only help you a lot later in the future when you're saying, okay, I want to do business with, let's say, this random European business person, and I have to talk to someone from China and understand, there are differences in cultural customs, and how do I accommodate those differences? And I think when you solo travel, you get better at recognizing the differences and the nuances in how people talk, communicate, how they carry themselves, how they talk back to you. And this is very good for business. It's very good for romantic relationships, friendships, just anything in general. It's really good for that. And solo traveling is such a great way for that. I think another benefit from solo traveling would be it expands your worldview drastically, right? And I have been very fortunate to travel throughout my entire life. And I understand that there are many people in the world, the vast majority of people in the world cannot travel to the extent that I have traveled. And I recognize that, right? But if you have the financial resources, if you have the passport, if you have, you know, the resources to go travel, go travel. It's so good because, if you were to stay in a particular country for your entire life, let's say America, you become so inundated with what you see on American media, what you see through, I don't know, what you consume on YouTube, the news, the people that you're with, the political feelings, the religious sentiment, every single thing. And when you go to a different country, let's say Nepal, where it's quite the opposite in terms of religion, politics, what they show to you on the news, you get better at recognizing, okay, well, to what extent was this like the truth in my world, right? To what extent is Christianity real? To what extent is Buddhism real? To what extent is religion real? Or to what extent, for an example is I went to Wharton for 4 years. I pretty much studied in an environment where you had to go through investment banking, where you had to go through consulting and go on this pre-professional track. And that was the world for everyone. It was saying, hey, the only correct thing to do after graduation is to do finance, is to do your 2 years at Goldman and TMT, to do your 2 or 3 years at consulting. And we as students, we just accept that to be fact, right? Whether or not we consciously accept that, we subconsciously accept that because we're in that environment. We accept the environment and we let that environment mold us. And I think when you go to Nepal, when you go to other different countries, you just think to yourself, wait, was that really the only way to live life? Like when I saw farmers in Nepal, these villagers, they just farmed rice like their entire lives, and they raise buffalo, they raise chicken, they do all these different things. And like there's always difficulties to life and there's always pleasantries to life, but they live a life that is so fundamentally different from mine. And yet they're able to find happiness. They're able to find some sort of contentment in this world. So was my previous view of going into banking really the only way to live life? Like, no, it isn't. And I think it's very easy. I think we all recognize that banking is not the only way to live life, but we only intellectualize this at the intellectual level. But only when you've experienced a new way of life, a different way of life, will you truly understand that, hey, there are many ways to live life. Banking is not the only way. There are other ways. There are so many other ways, And I think that helps a lot with recognizing how to live life, recognizing how to be content in life, and recognizing your own privileges as well. Because I think as an American with a U.S. passport, you don't realize how privileged you are until you leave America. And one example is when I was in Nepal, my friend Power, he said that the average person in Nepal eats only a handful of meat per week. And to me, that shocked me because in America, you just take meat, chicken, beef, like pretty much all these different foods for granted. It's like there's infinite chicken in America. There's infinite food in America. Like America goes through so much food waste. And when you're in Nepal, they literally save every single grain of rice and they eat every single grain of rice, every single remaining sauce. They eat everything. And that may be due to food scarcity, but I would say it reflects more on the culture as a whole of, hey, like we should value every single thing in life and let's consume everything. And that goes into correct consumption, correct usage of goods, all of that. But in America, people overconsume to such an extent. It is so gluttonous. And you only see that when you go solo travel. I think another big difference and another big privilege that Americans have is simply being able to travel, because the US passport is like top 10 strongest in the world or top 20 strongest, but the Nepali passport is top 10 weakest in the world. And when you hear from people saying, hey, like, I'm from Nepal and I've never left my country before, I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah, that's probably due to lack of money, right? And yes, it is due to lack of money, but also the visa application process for international people to go to America, to go to China, to go to other different places, for Nepali people especially, it's like impossible. You have to show all your documents. You have to show proof of residency, bank account statements, like return flight, every single thing, because you run a flight risk of defecting to another country, and you don't realize that when you're an American. You don't realize that at all. You know, I also think that Americans, like, we just enjoy so much exceptional public infrastructure. And relatively speaking to the rest of the world, like, American infrastructure is really good in terms of trains, electricity, running water, sewage system, and you take that for granted as well. I will say that China has a much better infrastructure system, but America does pretty well, you know. And yeah, like, now this is just thinking on you, the viewer. If you've like been sticking throughout this whole video, like, props to you, because I'm literally doing this on one single take. But to you, the viewer, if you are in your, let's say, early 20s, you're in college, or this is 2 years after college and you're working, please consider solo traveling. It doesn't need to be Nepal. It doesn't need to be Nepal for 4 months, China for 2 months. Simply put, like, you could solo travel in your city. Just go to a different restaurant, go to a different bar, go to a different thing where you may not know the people there, you may not know the language, you may not know the culture, but by doing this, you're learning so much about yourself, and you're doing something completely new, right? So solo travel and adventure is always something that you can find, even if you can't, let's say, pay for a flight ticket out, right? The benefits of solo travel are very real. You become a lot more confident in yourself. For me, I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin. I understand that there are so many different ways to live life. There are so many different types of people in the world. There are many good people in the world that want good for you. There are some bad people. There are some people who want to scam you. But overall, like, people are inherently good. And yes, I know that in some environments there might be psychopaths or people who will backstab you or people who will directly compete with you. But I think people are generally good people. And through solo travel, you understand that, because people help you out with the bus directions, with travel directions, with navigation, with getting food, every single thing. And you're like, wow, like, people are being so kind to me out of their own heart. And that, I think, is really good. I'm not sure what else is there for me to cover. But yeah, just please solo travel. Please study abroad. Please do whatever you can, because it has helped me so much. And I can't wait to, later on in life, connect the dots in my head, connect the dots between all my different memories and experiences, and start to understand my life, you know. And I don't know what there is to understand about my life, but having some contentment of my life, being, in tune, being present with what I'm doing, what I'm trying to pursue, I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm very excited on how solo travel will help me on this journey of self-realization, on self-understanding. And yeah, that concludes my video. This is why you should solo travel. This has been a very long ramble, but I hope you take something from this video, and please like and subscribe. Yeah, peace.